But I look at it and go, do you really believe in what you're doing anymore? I'm not sure you do.
Geordie Journos outside Craven Cottage, where Newcastle United have suffered their first Premier League defeat of the season. 3-1 against Fulham. Deserved defeat. Jordan's so disappointed he's had to leave the camera.
It's an outside joke, he's laughing about something.
So, yes. Liam.
He's coming back.
Sorry. What
do I think of that?
Yeah, really disappointing. I think it was coming, as I said on the live, but yeah, what are your overall thoughts?
Anybody who's seen the live will know exactly what I think about it. If I'm going to go a bit deeper, I think there's certain parts of this team that aren't fit for purpose. It seems to be something that's been bandied about loads recently, that phrase. So let's really drill down and say what I think isn't fit for purpose. Never mind talking about transfer policies and whatever else is really bubbling on in the background. I think Eddie Howe's got some serious questions to answer. Now, I'm not going to go as far as some people did on the live, suggesting that it could be Howe out and all this kind of thing. I think that's ridiculously reactionary. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, as I said on there. It's a safe space. Come on, say what you want. However, he's got some serious questions to answer. I think there's two major problem areas. The two major problem areas for me are he's got 4 fullbacks. He's played every single one of them this season. What do you want from them? I mean, you've got Lloyd Kelly, who's a converted centre-half, who's quite good at what he does, solid, not an attacking threat at all. And then he's got Lewis Hall, who is an attacking threat, who makes an impact, but is really struggling with his defensive game, as he has for quite some time. Go on the right-hand side, Kieran Trippier started today, who gives you a certain set of strengths and leadership. And then Tino Livramento, who's been totally off the boil, in my opinion, since he came back this summer. He hasn't been the same player that he was last season since he got that injury. But gives you a totally different kind of set of... Which is a cause about to pull off here. It wouldn't be the Geordie Journos, or it's something.
Well, we got kicked out, didn't we? We knew we would, because I think we historically always get kicked out.
And I did 40 minutes nearly on the live, so... yeah, I don't... He needs to work out what does he want this team to be.
Yeah.
I think teams go in cycles. I think it happens everywhere, that things become tired, things become a little bit worn and need freshening up. What didn't happen this summer was Newcastle was not freshened up in any way, shape or form with transfers. But that's on the manager in some respects as well. He can freshen up from within. It is within his power to freshen up.
Everything's going on. But yeah, go on, Liam. You're making a good point. You just might need to speak up.
They look like they're bringing, I don't know, you'll not be able to see it in the background. They look like they're bringing on them big lights on the pitch. For the pitch. It wouldn't be the Geordie Journos without something going on. No, so I think the manager's got capabilities to freshen things up, and I think that's just got to be in system, in style of play, in manner in which the team is set up. I don't think he's done any of that. I almost think he's far too, and somebody mentioned it, and I'm going to quote them, I can't remember what it was, but they said that he's married to 4-3-3. I think he is. I think he's married to 4-3-3. He changed things up in the second half, and all of a sudden Newcastle got a foothold. He matched them up for what they were doing, and it made a difference. Why is there no tactical nuance? Where is that? Is that a limitation? We've been saying this for 2.5 years now, and I like him. But where is the tactical nuance? Where's the little changes that have big impacts in games? He did it today, but he sat all week watching Fulham, and he knows how they were going to play. Me and you guys sat before that game, and we knew where the problems were going to come from. The problems are going to come from that big chasm between the back 4 and the midfield 3, which I'm going to come on to. Yeah. The chasm in there that's been there for 2.5 years. Doesn't want to address it. I get it. He doesn't want his midfield to play in that traditional sense with a defensive midfielder. I told you somebody's going to come along with them trolleys. We get it every year. The safety steward trolleys. He doesn't want to address that in terms of bringing personnel in, but they have to do that in style. They can't just go gung-ho. They play Joe Willock. He doesn't answer any questions in a game where you need to win the ball and battle for the ball. He doesn't answer any questions. That was never going to work.
They know what they're doing.
They do, yeah. No, they're laughing because they know we're good. Was never going to answer any questions, and that's maybe unfair to pick him out, but we could see Emile, did he? Well, fair enough. We could see Emile Smith-Rowe was going to cause those issues, getting in between the spaces. Alex Iwobi, terrible final ball most of the time, but was always going to pick up those pockets like he did this time last year when they played here. He caused Lewis Hall all kinds of problems. These are issues that were there, staring him in the face all week, and he did nothing to try and change it. And it took them 45 minutes of absolute dross to decide, now I'm going to change it, and they were better for it. But why not start with that team?
Well, you done that at Wolves last week as well.
I mean, there's some benefit of hindsight. I think you have to give him credit where it's due. Where he's seen the problems. He's seen the problems and he's addressed them.
But is it not? So if I give you a task at work, right, and I say this is your task on Saturday, and this is what the challenge is going to be, you wouldn't just go, it's alright, I'll be fine, I'll just do it my way. You'd go, no, you'd look at the tasks and go, right, that's the challenge I face. I'm going to use my skills to tackle that. You wouldn't sort of just go, nah, Liam, I don't want to see what you're going to offer us on Saturday. I'll just play my way out anyway, which is 4-3-3 with full-backs. I don't really know which ones I want, what style I want to play. And 3 midfielders who now, clearly, which I was going to come on to, he doesn't really know what he wants from his midfield. He's got 5 midfielders who, in my opinion, offer differences, but none of them is a defensive midfielder. So they're not going to play that way. He doesn't know which one he wants. He doesn't know. He's had Longstaff in there. He's had Bruno in there, who had his worst game in a black and white shirt today by some distance. Some distance that was.
Even before the mistake.
Yeah, it was even before the mistake. Joe Linton's not right. He's not right. He was slightly better in the second half, but was hooked. Anthony Gordon. I mean, I'm going out with the midfield. What is going on with Anthony Gordon? He's still producing moments, performances. The lad looks bloody drained. I'm watching him on that pitch in that second half. The shoulders drop constantly. Why are the shoulders dropping? Is it because these players know what they're doing? Banging away at the same drum isn't working. If you can't freshen up with personnel, you have to freshen up with ideas. Good managers do that, and that's the point. I'm not saying Eddie Howe isn't a good manager, but that's what good managers do, and he has to do that now. They have to freshen things up, because going with the same 3 midfielders consistently in games against technical midfields, they get outworked, outpassed, and outthought every time, and it's happened for 2.5 years. This isn't a new problem that we've just noticed today. I think you'll both admit that.
No, it's similar to games I had last season when even though we were playing like Nottingham Forest at home. It's like it's your technical players like Morgan Gibbs White, for example, who finds them pockets, and we knew that coming the way down. We said that we're no tactical experts, nor do we claim to be, but we knew that was going to be where the game had won and lost. And I think that midfield is probably Eddie Howe's biggest dilemma, because he's sticking with a 3-man midfield that is very, very disjointed, and I don't think he knows his best midfield. I don't think he knows his best team.
That's one of his big problems, isn't it?
I don't think he knows his best team. He's making changes. He changed the 2 full-backs today, tried that. I'd say Trippier did all right. Lloyd Kelly,
I thought
controversially, actually did all right, but didn't get it forward. So then he had to change it and bring on Lewis Hall, who was better for going forward, but has that defensive question marks.
We've seen the best and worst of Lewis Hall in that half, really, didn't we? He gave a real
I thought he was okay,
bonus going forward, and then there was that absolute mess that he created for himself defensively by dropping a pass short. So
I just think it's fair to say they're playing a similar way to last season, and they've been playing a similar way to the year they got Champions League. That is the similar formation in a similar way. The high intensity's dropped off, which is a big part of their identity. Are Newcastle United, do they currently have an identity crisis? What are Newcastle United
because
now?
these things go in cycles.
These
things go in cycles. You can't expect to continuously keep playing the same way with the same players and expect to improve on what you're doing. You've got to change things. There has been no tactical tweaks of any real significance to this team for over 2 years. There's been no real significant improvement on first team players for about the same period. Anthony Gordon was the last significant signing made that's improved the first team, guaranteed.
Well, yeah, it's because Tonali, people say Tonali, but Tonali hasn't.
Doesn't get in the team.
Didn't get in the team today.
He hasn't significantly improved the first team. Lewis Hall has not significantly. He's significantly improved options. Tino Livramento has significantly improved options.
Kelly
Harvey Barnes has significantly improved options, but doesn't always naturally start in Eddie Howe's team.
Yeah.
He's only started 2 games this season. He's been Newcastle's player of the season.
I do think. To play devil advocate, people obviously look at the summer and go, well, they didn't sign anyone in the summer. But what I would say to that is it's about finding a way with the players that you've got, and Eddie Howe even said that himself.
Is it getting tired? Are the players losing belief in it?
Yes,
that's what I feel watching it, and I don't know if they are.
Yeah.
But I look at it and go, do you really believe in what you're doing anymore? I'm not sure you do.
Yeah. It's not the breath of fresh air that it was when it came on, when Newcastle came forward.
I mean, this is some noise.
It sums up the day, really, just a car crash in a lot of ways. So.
Keep calm, Dom. It'll be fine. We'll get by.
Yeah, because a lot gets made of the summer, but in terms of what Newcastle did or didn't do, the players who are currently there, your Brunos, you almost like appeasing him by making him captain in some ways. And I think Anthony Gordon is, like, we don't know, but is cutting a frustrated figure and is playing like a player who's maybe a little bit disillusioned, and I think we're seeing a little bit of that from Newcastle today, this season in general, because the performances have just not clicked all season, and this was it almost coming to a fore where it wasn't a surprise in terms of the result. The performance was certainly worse than it has been, but they've been poor all season. They've just managed to pick up results, which has papered over the cracks in a lot of ways and the issues, and then it just all came to the fore today.
Can I just quickly jump before you come in, Jordan? I just want to quickly say, because I want to answer what I can see coming in the comments where they say, bloody hell, Liam, we've only lost one game, but we're unbeaten and such and such. I've been saying this, it felt built on sand. This is Newcastle United. I don't believe they're a team that's taken any major steps forward. I think they've stood still, which has meant they've gone backwards slightly. This is what they are. They will lose these games and then probably beat teams at home because they've got that support, they've got that belief, they've got that momentum. They can almost beat anybody at home. But it's games like this where they're going to fall short because they're just lacking. And I think when you lose that, this team was built on belief. This team was built on every man has to give their last ounce for everything.
Hard work,
There's none of that anymore. And that's not a heart thing. I don't necessarily think it's because they don't want to. I think it's a head thing. I think there's been limitations on training, as has been suggested elsewhere by yourself as well and others. I think that's had an impact. I think there's been some of the people in the live are asking, has the off the field stuff had an issue? I don't think the off the field stuff's directly had an issue necessarily, but I do think it's had an impact on the manager, which I think is having a knock-on effect on the players. That unsettling uncertainty when your manager just suddenly goes from being the top dog to suddenly question marks, it breeds uncertainty that filters down into the squad. It's gone from a football club that almost I felt 6 months ago in many ways knew what it was, knew where it wanted to go and knew how it was going to do it, to a football club now with more questions than answers. And that might seem really broad brush for people out there and saying, that's a bit strong. That's just my understanding of the situation. I think it was a club with direction. Now it's a club that has a little bit, as you guys suggested, a little bit of an identity crisis. Yes, it's not the end of the world. They go and win, and they're through to the Carabao Cup, whatever it be, last
16.
16. And get something against Man City, things are all rosy again. It can turn, it can change. But it just feels like the project, for the first time, needs its first refresh. It needs a reboot and things to start again. That's not me saying they need to change manager, but I think the manager needs to change. If that makes sense.
Yeah, grow with the club, adapt, show. I mean, I still think Eddie Howe in the last 2 games has made changes that have positively impacted the game, so deserves some sort of credit for that. But there has been, I think you're right, a stubbornness with the 4-3-3, with personnel in some regards. Okay, he made 4 changes today, but then he's gone back and said starting Joe Willock potentially was a mistake. He questioned whether that was the right decision today, and then he wasn't overly. He was asked about.
Was he specific about Willock?
Yes, he named him. I just asked him about the changes, and Joe Willock obviously came off at half time, and he questioned whether it was the right decision to start Joe Willock today. Which, I mean, we talked about what midfield Newcastle should name for this game, and none of us went with the midfield Eddie Howe name because it left them too vulnerable. I think we all knew that, and when we saw the team, we're like, it's really positive. It's a strong 11, but there's definitely some.
Yeah, but Dom, you could set that. So you could set that same personnel up in a totally different way. You know, what Joe Willock's limitations are is he's not really going to, look, let's be honest, he's not going to give you much defensively. He's not going to give you much without the ball. What he's going to give you is when he's on the ball, when he's in gaps, in spaces. So why don't you just play the same formation that you did in the second half? And Willock could have played where Gordon was playing quite easily. It would have been exactly the same, and you could have said to Joe Linton, I was saying that to you in the first half, wasn't I? I was saying, why is he gone? Why hasn't he said to Joe Linton, just tuck in a bit more? The gaps were cavernous. We see it all the time. That's what frustrates us. It's the seeing of problems, and I believe he sees these problems. But why is he not acting upon the problems? Because it cost Newcastle points, lots of points last season. and it cost them some the season before.
He is reacting, but it's reactive, not proactive.
Reactive rather than proactive.
During the games.
I was going to say about the team not clicking and Eddie Howe waiting for it to click. And one of the reasons he gave, and he even said it was people are probably tired of hearing anyway, was the fact that players have had disjointed pre-seasons and been at summer tournaments. How can you say that when you essentially you is it 5 Premier League games now?
Like players like Bruno, Trippier have been back at the club for 2 months. So
I personally can't.
It had merit prior to this international break.
Yes, and to be
this
fair,
has no merit, in my opinion, after the international break.
And Paul Mitchell said about the corridors at St James Park, whatever, training ground were quiet because of players being away on international duty. That's what all the top clubs have. They have players away. You shouldn't need players within your control for a sustained 6 weeks of pre-season and then say a sustained 2 weeks whilst the national break is on to get them.
Newcastle's
firing.
issue is created by something that's just part and parcel of football. If you have international players, yes, they're going to be away in these summer tournaments. It shouldn't
it's not like a new invention, is it?
Yeah, no.
It's always been the case.
Exactly. But if you're a top team, you will have these players who will go deep into international tournaments.
I never heard it.
Yeah, it wasn't really an excuse before.
For 4 years, you never heard a manager
it was
talk
never
like
a
that.
relevant excuse to Newcastle though, because they never had
we still had players. It was never
disjointed pre-season. But
I think you're probably getting a sense of the frustration. Actually, I think that's the first time we've probably seemed quite outwardly frustrated on a video.
Yeah.
Frustrated. The lawnmowers are coming now.
I'm just frustrated because these are problems we've seen last season, and everyone's answer to these problems is, well, we'll get players back from injury.
Joe Willett was going to be the answer.
You've got your players back from injury. Okay, you're missing Sven Botman, but he's not the answer to all Newcastle United's problems, obviously. Callum Wilson would be backup striker Alexander Isak if he was fit. Who else? Lewis Miley would probably not be in the team today. So you talk about getting players back, and Eddie Howe say they've still got an injury list. Yes, that's true. But there's no one on that injury list really, apart from Sven Botman, that would come into that team. Because Jamal Lascelles is there. He will be back up to Fabian Schär. So they've got the players back now. So if getting injured players
today as well.
If getting injured players back isn't the answer, then what is?
It never was the definitive answer. There was always changes that had to be made to the style and the way that they play. But he's like I said, he does not want his midfield to play with any kind of traditional defensive midfielder or protection for his back four, and that's going to leave them woefully exposed, like they were at certain times last season, like they were today.
Yeah. They probably don't have that number 6 type player though, do they?
He's never wanted. He's never looked to buy one or want one. They could have addressed it. Yeah. They could have got players in who play that role. I'm not saying they could have signed Rodri. What I'm saying is they could have signed players who play that role. Other teams do it. He does not want to have a player, quite clearly, who plays that role.
Because Bruno, for as good as he is never really, and this is probably really contradictory, but I've never really seen him as a proper number 6.
He is.
I think he's a very, very talented midfielder, and he's done a very, very good job there. But you want Bruno further up the pitch. I don't know. I do think Newcastle United, probably since January onwards, have lacked innovation. It's all been very much the same of, we've got all these injuries, we'll get the players back and be better for it. And that might still happen. I
heard people at the back end of last season and even this summer talking about, even without signing players, I remember seeing people on social media talking in this manner, without signing players, Newcastle United will be stronger. I remember thinking, I'm going to pull the rest of my hair out, I'm losing most of it, but thinking like, are these people sane? Like, it's almost like you're talking about bringing back world-class talent. You were talking about a couple of players here and there
who weren't
unproven. Sandro Tonali, unproven Harvey Barnes at Newcastle United.
Yeah.
Now Barnes has come back and given them a really good option. Given them a really good option. What it's essentially done is pushed Almer onto the fringes, who doesn't really get a look in now. He's number 4 in those sort of wide areas, and that's kind of the way squads should work. That's perfectly fine. But they needed more.
I do think probably Newcastle do have stronger options because of having the likes of Tonali back. So I would argue they're in a stronger position. But that's not shown.
But really. It's actually not created a stronger dynamic because he doesn't know.
Yeah, well, no, he's almost got too many.
So he signed.
Selection
He was one
issues.
of the. He really tried to own the signing of Sandro Tonali. Now the lad has been back fully fit for the best part of a month now. He's never picked him.
No.
Why?
His answer
If
today
he
was
si-
strange.
he signed
though,
him,
when
He
was
didn't
asked
like being
about it.
questioned about it.
Yeah,
That was a
Did he
problem.
not?
He almost got, why aren't you bringing on Sandro Tonali, essentially?
Yeah.
And he,
Crowd
did,
were
he,
chanting
he
his name.
didn't like that.
Did he not?
No, but essentially questioning why he didn't bring him on earlier, which, why didn't he bring him on earlier?
Our question is team selection. He admitted he got it wrong. So he was receptive
Why is he touching on Tonali? Doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
He got that light, Jordan.
We're lit up now.
We are a little
Good
bit
decision.
better. It's getting dark, isn't it?
Bad preparation, but good decision in the end. So where were we going?
Is that the opposite of what we've just seen? oh man. No, I think you've just made a point off camera saying, do we really want this to just be like an Eddie Howe booting session? I don't see it as one. But if you want to add some balance, then that's absolutely fine to do.
I think you take a step back and
It's not the end of the world, is it?
performances have not been good this season. The results have been until today. So I think maybe there's a degree of papering over the cracks. Eddie Howe was asked, was it a reality check for his side today? He said he doesn't believe in reality checks because he knows how hard the Premier League is. But I think in some ways it possibly was for people who are maybe looking at just purely on the results and not at the overall package and going, yeah, Newcastle are doing great. Because ultimately, I mean, you described it, I think, possibly quite harshly as like rubbish, like a really rubbish start. I think you used stronger words than that.
Did I win?
But this is before.
Oh, before today?
Yeah, before today.
Yeah, I think they've played rubbish. Genuinely.
But you not think that's why we're venting a lot of frustration after the first defeat of the season?
Yes,
because of the context around
But
it.
Jordan, like, we've been, this isn't like, anybody who watches this regularly will know. We haven't been standing here saying everything is rosy.
No,
We've literally been saying this hasn't been very good, and people have jumped in the comments and said, yeah, but come on lads, results. Okay, so what happens when results run out? You fall back on performances, and when performances aren't there, what the hell and results don't come, what the hell do you fall back on? You've actually got to critique the team, critique why things are happening. It's no good to just look at the face value of things and say, oh, lovely, 3 points, that's all that matters. You wouldn't come to YouTube and watch videos like this if you wanted that kind of thing, because all you have to do is look at the league table or look at the result. No, of course, you listen to Radio Newcastle, you watch Match of the Day, you come to YouTube, you watch Sky, because you want people to talk about the whys and whats and wherefores, or how these things happen and how they come about, and that's what we try and give you. Maybe, after a defeat, these things sound a little bit negative. Wow, come into the real world. What's the problem there? I don't get this. It's got to be rosy. It isn't rosy. It's not rosy behind the scenes. It's not rosy in the dressing room. And it's not rosy on the pitch. That's all right to say. Doesn't mean the whole world is going to fall apart. The lawnmower again. It's going to be well cut, Craven Cottage, I can tell you that. It doesn't mean the whole club is going to fall to bits. It doesn't mean that Newcastle United isn't better than it was under Mike Ashley. It doesn't mean any of that rubbish. It just means that things aren't perfect now, and it's okay to critique that. That's my...
You're done.
I'm done.
Mic drop.
No, yeah, I think you're perfectly within your rights to say that. I think people will look at videos like this and some fans on Twitter and go, it's one defeat, overreaction. But because it's been bubbling for a few games, we could have came out, if Newcastle had lost 1-0 to Wolves, which would have been maybe not a deserved result, but it could have quite easily...
have argued if that
Newcastle
happened.
could have quite easily lost every single game they've played this season.
Yeah.
So if they'd come out and lost against Wolves and we were saying the same thing, it's fine. It's analysing the overall package and the context of it and asking why things are happening, and we don't have the answers, but Eddie Howe and his players.
Well, that's what you employ Eddie Howe, and he needs to
them.
find the answers, because this team looks a little bit found out, a little bit one-dimensional. But I've seen bright sparks. He puts that team out in the second half, having watched the problems and actually tried to solve some of them.
It was a perfect start. They couldn't have started much better to the second half with Harvey Barnes, good goal, and then it was on a plate for them to come back. And I think Fabian Schär won't want to see that.
Shaw won't want to, but yeah. I would actually argue Fulham created as many chances in the second half as they did in the first.
Oh, it could have been 5-0 at half time, and it could have finished.
They could have scored another 4 or 5 in the second half.
I mean, they created some good chances. Yeah, they created.
Nick Pope, point blank.
Nick Pope, point blank save. Iwobi had one at the back post. He could have had a hat trick the day. I mean, it's not. What's the point If you just paper over the cracks, they're going to form again. You're going to see them later down the line. Address the problems. That's all we're trying to do. We just don't have the answers to them.
No.
We can only put the paper on the top. Hey man.
So yeah, we'll want to wrap up there because obviously it's quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Back at the press conference ahead of Wimbledon, where we'll need a reaction because it could. Newcastle can get back in it, and there's something positive to talk about if they make it to the last 16 of the Carabao Cup. So we'll be there on Tuesday night at Plough Lane, and then moving on Man City next weekend. So it doesn't get any easier for Newcastle in the Premier League. But we'll have it covered every step of the way. I've been Dom Skur, Dane Kennedy, Jordan Cronin. And if you like what we do, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell for all your Geordie Journals content. This is what I'm doing. There's obviously the thanks button if you want to donate. It's always well appreciated. Yeah, Liam, T's and C's, Mr. T's and C's, take it away.
Right, 4 of us financial planning. We're getting darker here, aren't we?
Yeah.
I'll have to come closer. Can you see me? 4 of us financial planning might be in one of the corners. It'll definitely all be down here. If you've got any advice that you need with regards to your pensions or finance, just reach out to those guys, and they are the proud sponsors of all Geordie Journals videos. Right, it's time to go. It's getting dark. We've got to drive, and we want a pint. I'm sure many of you do out there. If you enjoyed the video, do give it a like, as Dom said. The little thanks button's somewhere around here, I think. And click the bell. We've not said that for a while. Click the bell.
I just said it.
If you know what to do, did you? Yeah. Shows how much I listen. Anyway, we've got to go. Right, good night from the Geordie Journals.